Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Former Lee County Sheriff's deputies to talk corruption with FBI. Cody Delaney, C. Delaney at news-press.com, published 2:01 p.m. Eastern Time, December 22, 2017. At least 3 former deputies of the Lee County Sheriff's Office are talking to the FBI about alleged corruption. And the former head of Internal Affairs said he had several conversations with Sheriff Mike Scott about those corruption allegations, but nothing ever came of them. In October, the news press received documents involved in a federal investigation implicating at least one sheriff's deputy in offering protection to a known drug trafficker, but a news press investigation found that's old news to some former members of the sheriff's office. More than 2 years ago, the then head of Internal Affairs told the news press he was investigating a sheriff's deputy and his alleged connection to a drug trafficker, and 3 other former deputies filed a complaint with the FBI about the same situation. But nothing ever came of the sheriff's investigation or the FBI complaint, and the FBI agent who did not investigate is now working for the sheriff's office earning less money. Related, Fort Myers Police, Lee County Sheriff deputy implicated in corruption, documents show. The news press emailed questions for Sheriff Scott Monday morning, December 18, to the department's Public Information Office, as requested. Sergeant Anita Iriart acknowledged receipt of the questions, but despite 2 additional requests, they were not answered as of Friday afternoon, December 22. This all started with a review of the Fort Myers Police Department earlier this year, which confirmed reports of heavy-handed policing as well as accused Fort Myers officers of leaking information and protecting drug dealers known for killing witnesses. The news press obtained additional documents associated with that review as the result of a legal battle with the city of Fort Myers in October. And those documents, while heavily censored, shed light on Fort Myers and Lee County law enforcement's alleged connection to drug trafficking. Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. Photo, file. It was reported that, censored, sell narcotics under the protection of a deputy, censored, the report shows. In another area, it reads, censored, reported that the deputy allowed, censored, to use an LCSO vehicle to transport the narcotics. Mike Hollow, who served as commander of Lee Sheriff's Office Internal Affairs from 2014 to 2016 and recently lost a bid for Cape Coral mayor, said he was investigating the allegations in early 2015. The FBI contacted Hollow shortly after the news press published the documents implicating a sheriff's deputy, Hollow said. Hollow declined to comment further, citing the active federal investigation. Related, Fort Myers City Attorney fears assassination attempt, records show. Sheriff's Office records from March 2016 show 3 former Sheriff's Office deputies, Kevin Calderon, George Schwing, and Mike Zaleski, filed a complaint about corruption with then FBI agent James Rankin. The trio, who at the time were leading the Lee County Deputies Association, met with Rankin in May 2015, Zaleski told the news press. He said part of their complaint involved opiates seized as evidence in past cases went missing from the evidence room, and evidence showing criminal intent was either ignored or destroyed. A high-ranking member of the sheriff's office was protecting a known drug trafficker. The news press requested documents associated with these allegations but was told they no longer existed, while others weren't provided. A Lee County Sheriff's spokeswoman said a completed internal investigation into a deputy accused of stealing narcotics had been destroyed as allowed by state law. That law requires law enforcement agencies to keep internal investigation records for 1 year if unsubstantiated and 5 years if substantiated. After nearly 2 months of repeated public records requests, the sheriff's office has not provided personnel files for deputies involved with these allegations. Zaleski, Calderon, and Schwing made it clear they were not witnesses to the alleged violations. They were receiving complaints from other law enforcement officers and went to the FBI on behalf of the union. Records also show the trio are involved in an active lawsuit filed on behalf of the union in 2014 against Sheriff Scott stemming from contract negotiations. The FBI has no record of the May 2015 complaint by the three deputies. Rankin retired from the FBI in February making $152,000 a year, and accepted a new job for $100,000 a year with the sheriff's office, the same agency he declined to investigate, deeming the trio's information unworthy because it was third-party information, records show. The sheriff's office did not respond to questions about Rankin. Related, name of dead man surfaces in investigation of Fort Myers police. But the U.S. Attorney's Office has a different opinion. Records show the allegations of a deputy accused of protecting a drug dealer is now part of a federal investigation. The trio told the news press about a scene that had been described to them where a sheriff's deputy conducted a traffic stop and found this dealer in possession of drugs while driving an undercover sheriff's office vehicle. But a higher-ranking deputy reportedly ordered the drug dealer to be released without any charges, they said. Further allegations suggested that there was a prolonged, inappropriate relationship between the deputy and the dealer, Zaleski said in an email that was prepared along with Calderon and Schwing. All four former members pointed to problems at the sheriff's office as the reason for their departure, among other personal issues and desires, and most are now running their own business. Zaleski, Calderon, and Schwing all declined to name the deputy and the dealer, saying that information was given to the FBI 2 years ago. Schwing and Calderon said they are going back to the FBI. We cannot comment on the appropriateness of failing to investigate the allegations provided to us by sworn law enforcement officers, the three said in an email.
It was truly a privilege to do this engagement and be retained by the city of Fort Myers to look into the police department. We were brought in by the city with no strictures placed on us. We were given unfettered access to the department and all its members. This report was not to zero in on the good things the police department does, that they do on a daily basis. It was a critical evaluation. It was to look at the bad things. So not only did they ask us to do an evaluation, but they wanted us to zero in on the things that were not working right, or the perception was they were not working right. We were tasked by the city to identify impediments to addressing crime within the city of Fort Myers, and more specifically within the Dunbar community. There was a buyout in 2008, and there's realities of life. And the realities of life is a police department or any municipal agency is funded by public monies. But when that buyout occurred, the city lost a great deal of very experienced officers. And you just don't replace that overnight. And that was a problem. And then when the budgetary problems persist and you cannot replace officers, and the officers continue to operate on a lower level in terms of numbers, their job is harder. So that officer who responds to something on the street where it would have been better to spend more time has to immediately leave that call to go to another call. And so the public then feels they're not getting the proper attention because at that call, maybe they needed that officer longer. And the public's right. But the officer had to move on to another call, and the officer is right. So there are issues when you're not properly staffed. And that's something the city is committed to address. Another one is there is a real thought within the department that preferential treatment permeated the entire organization. In other words, the great majority, if not almost every single person we interviewed, said there was a cliquish system within the department. You either were in or you were out. And many of them really felt that was a problem, as do we. But in any small organization, you're going to have that. One thing that was felt was so many of the supervisors come out of the same group, the narcotics section, and then move their way through. Another issue was the failure to address certain integrity issues. We did, through our interviews, learn that there were some integrity issues within the department. That does occur, and that is something, when it occurs, must be dealt with. The way it was dealt with historically was to not deal with it. That cannot happen. That is something that needs to be addressed one way or the other. Again, the current administration, the chief, is committed to dealing with those issues and dealing with them heads on. There's no other way. You must understand that if you don't deal with them, your department is isolated, which in very many ways has happened from other law enforcement entities in the area. They lack sufficient physical space, and this goes to support staff as well. You know, crime scene technicians, we run through it in a report. There's a lot of inadequate spacing. And as we mentioned, a lot of this is historical and has been going on for years, and they've been making do. Eventually, to do the job right, you need the proper resources. Our recommendations that we've made in the report, and we've made a number of them, we tiered and made a tiered approach to them. The reason for that is we wanted to put different levels. Tier 1 are recommendations that we believe the city must institute immediately because it affects the safety of the citizens of Fort Myers. So that has to be done right now. An example, the communications division. Historically, that section has been tremendously understaffed. And the fear is from within the police department, and again, much of what we learned comes from the police department. The fear was that someone could get hurt or worse if they don't adequately respond to the 911 calls. And that's something that the city jumped on. So we've got 4 tiers. Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then tier 4, to go to the opposite end of the spectrum, are going to be those things that, such as, can the city afford a new building? Or can the city renovate that building? Or provide other places or locations that might supplement the existing space? Because like anything else, they're running out of space, and that's something that the city is looking into. So that is important and essential, but not as timely as something like responding to 911 calls.
The action steps that are recommended will be acted upon immediately. Some of the things I want to bring out to you. Our number one priority at all times is safety of our citizens. To that end, we have hired 4 new staff members in the communication section to enhance the response time for our officers. We've invested in 142 brand new body cameras that are going to be used by the department that we're starting to deploy this week. Since my appointment, we have already hired 8 new police officers. We have begun a search for a full-time public information officer. Training practices and procedures need to be brought up to date. We have already embarked upon a strategic training and education program to educate our officers and give them the tools they need to do their job. Substations. We have already started looking at several substations before the report was issued, and indeed the report recommended that we do so. We'll have more details about the specific location of these substations, but in the report, one were the recommendations that we put a substation in the Dunbar community area, which we will do. Overall, we have improved the safety of our citizens in our neighborhoods, and we will continue to do so.
It's interesting to see how little a difference there is between so many of the police officers' views and people in the community, and how they share a common concern, and yet there's been tensions and there's been problems like anywhere else. And the goal here is to make the department as good as it can be, to let the public know that the department's there to serve them, and try to meld those interests. And that's what the city is committed to doing.
County, this is Sheriff of the County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago. And so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.